Right, in this workshop, we're going to cover bringing some photogrammetry into Maya, doing a quick cleanup, exporting it out into ZBrush, doing a Zremesh to bring the poly count down and tidy up the mesh, bringing it back into Maya, doing a transfer map to, so we can get the high resolution map to the lower resolution model, setting the model up into a T-pose, doing an auto rig and applying some mixer mode data so that we've got some mocap animation applied so that it looks like that. We probably ought to do it from the beginning. Yay, doing a little funny flappy dance, which is quite appropriate because it looks like she's got a dislocated shoulder. Anyway, so to start off with, we're going to need a new scene. Don't save that. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is bring in the photogrammetry. So I'm just going to import, it's an FBX. Right, so that's now imported. You can see that it's also got all of the cameras in there. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so that we can see this model. Oops. And it's also probably got the model on its side. You can see that I'm on the top view there. So that always seems to happen with the photogrammetry. I'm just going to try and whiz that around. That's better. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of all the cameras. We're just going to be working on this model. So in the outliner panel to the left, just going to grab all of those and delete those out. And that one. And then I think if I just press the 6 key, you're going to see what the UVs are looking at, all the materials are looking like, and it looks really lovely actually. The jeans are incredible. So but I'm going to just get a dual window just so that I can show you what the UVs look like, because this is probably quite mucky. So if you look at the UV editor, select the model. Going to take a little while to do that because it's quite involved, and you can see there that there's bits of UVs all over the place. Right, okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is we will try and clean this up. So to start off with, just going to maybe get rid of this base. Now, if you select this model, you can see that it's got a massive amount of detail in there. Like there's masses of triangles. So what we'll do is do a right click on the model, and we're going to select faces, because I want to be able to really just grab that base. I'm just trying to line this up a little bit so that it's easier. So I haven't got this aligned yet. So let's just see if we can grab some of this base and get rid of it. It's going to take a little while to do everything because it's such a large file. It's getting a little bit better. We can still make improvements on that. That's getting there. It's much, much better now. And that's done the trick. Actually, I can just grab these extra bits around the edges. Right, that's kind of cleaned up the base anyway, which is something. It's a bit of a rough clean. Right, the next thing to do, do a right click on the model, put it back to object mode. Now you notice here that when the photogrammetry came in, it hasn't actually put this model on the right axis. We're kind of there was a base on there somewhere. It's actually huge, and the base is not it's not lined up to the base at all. So I'm just going to try and just write that's got a minus 90 degrees. Let's see what happens when. Ooh. There's the base, you see. It's miles away. Right, that's still on the bottom. So we need it to be there and sitting on that base. So let's try and just rotate this around a little bit. And if you at any point lose your model and you don't know where it's gone, you can just press the F key and it will put the model into shot. Right, 90. Let's try a few of these. See if we can get this. No, that wasn't the right one. That's getting really close, right? Okay, that's looking a little bit more like it. At least it's sort of on the top. It probably needs a little bit more of a tilt. I think the other thing that, right, I think we probably need to, right, just sort of scale that back down. I think I made them all 10 before, I can't remember. Right, and there's the base. It's definitely looking better. Okay, just move that over towards the base. There we go. Remember how to do this. Right, so if you want to move the rotation point, you can hold down D and move it from the center, whoops, from the center point and reposition it. Right, like that. Okay, let's just give this a bit of a tilt. Okay, that's looking better. And also probably slight angle on that still. Right, okay. So now I've done all this work to get her into the middle there, and she's lining up with the viewport really. We'll need to maybe save these. Here we go, freeze transformations. If you do that at the moment, if we look in the selector, right, if you look in the channels window, the channel box here, you can see that there's all sorts of things been going on. She's much smaller scale, been rotated all over the place and had her X, Y, and Z changed. Now by freezing the transformations, that sets everything back to 0, which is what we want. Okay, so that's all right to go ahead and save her now. So save your scene. Plus also, we should delete by type, delete history just to sort of keep this tidy. So delete history and save again. Okay, so once this model's been cleaned up or a tiny bit, we've removed the base at least. Also, the model is orientated so that it's facing front. So next we're going to need to export this out into ZBrush just to reduce the amount of detail here. Look, if I zoom in here, you can see this is made up of loads and loads of triangles. There's a huge amount of detail there. So what we're going to do is select the model and go to File, Export Selected, and we're going to export this as an OBJ. Here we go, OBJ object, and I'm going to call this one model out OBJ. Export selected. Lovely. Once that's exported, we can go into ZBrush and bring that model into Zremesh. So go into ZBrush, and then we're going to go import. And we've got model out OBJ. Open that. And there it is. There she is. So we can just put a version of her on the stage. Right, if you open up the subtools, we've got the model on that level, and you can see how many polys there are. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this model and duplicate this. So we've got another layer, and then just select this one here. And we're going to reduce the size of this one just so that you can see the difference in polys. So we're going to scroll down to geometry, and in geometry we've got Zremesher, and here we can opt to halve as it remeshes. So activate that and take a little while. There's a little progress bar on the top left corner so you can see how long it's taking. Okay, so if I scroll back up to the subtools, you can see the first one. What's that? Yeah, it's over 2.5 million polys, and in the second one we've got, what's that, 157,000. Yes, so it's come down sort of quite a long way. You could take this down some more, but I'm just going to export this one back out to, so select this one, and we're going to send this one back to Maya just to sort of do a comparison and have a look. So with the second model selected, otherwise we're going to be sending like the super heavy weight one back again, we can go to export, and we're going to save it back there as so model out, I'm going to put model in OBJ, it's OBJ format. Lovely. Save. Right, so back in Maya, I'm just going to import this new, what was it? It was model in OBJ. There, we'll import that and just move that to the side. This one. And then in fact, it might be worth doing a couple more of these just so that you can see the difference, but you can see from that already that if I make the view wireframe, you sort of see how much that's sort of come down. So, but without hopefully losing too much of her face. So face is still looking quite good. So, okay, that's come down quite significantly. I mean, obviously, this could have been tidied up a lot more. There's all sorts of bits of hair, kind of, but she doesn't have any noticeable holes, which sometimes happens with photogrammetry. Fingers have webbed together a little bit. That could have done with being tidied up, but I'm just going to keep going with this for the moment, just so that you've got the steps at least. Okay, so we've brought back this new remeshed version from ZBrush. You can see here that because it's been moved to the side in the channel box, we can actually, and we're going to need to in a moment, sort of line her up over the original model so that we can make sure that we can copy the UVs across. So the first thing that we need to do is to do a UV unwrap on this new remeshed version. So I'm just going to go for a double view. And in this second panel, we want this to be the UVs. And at the moment, if I select the original model, you can see her UVs there. The new model doesn't have any UVs yet. Okay, to get these UVs, we're going to go to the little drop-down menu, go for modeling, and then you can see at the top there you've got UV menu there. So if you click on that, we can actually, we'll just see what the automatic UVs do. Right, so this has now projected some UVs, done an automatic UV projection, but you can see that there are seams from the shells going up through her face, which we want to try and avoid. So do a right click on the model, go to UV shell, and you can see just by hovering your mouse where these shells are. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the shells on her face and project them again so that we get them in one piece. So let's just grab different parts of this. I'm going to hold down the shift key, grab a bit more. I think I'm grabbing her glasses as well, but never mind. Right, okay, we'll go with that. At least there's not going to be any seams down the front of her face anymore. Right, so with all of those shells selected, we'll go to the UV menu and do a cylindrical. Let's see what that does. And there it's projected them all together. There's a couple of holes, there were some missed bits, but it should be. You can see where the glasses were. Great. So I'm just going to shrink that down a bit. It's got to be better than it was. Right, okay. So what that's done is it's taken all of those bits and pieces that were all over the place, and I could have done her whole head really and done a cylindrical unwrap, but at least her face is all captured together, so there's not going to be any nasty seams there. Good. I think the only other thing I wanted to keep an eye on was where the sleeves are, but this is, look at that, it's all over the place, because I am going to have to, right, I'm going to do a rush job with this because it's probably going to be too involved. Really, I could have done with unwrapping the sleeves and getting them all in one area together as well, because I am going to, I don't know if you can see there, I really need this model to be in a T pose, but for the moment, just to get the UVs onto her, I'm going to leave, I've got to leave her like that anyway. Okay, so we've at least unwrapped the face. So do a right click, put that back to object mode. Right, the other thing that's worth sort of quickly pointing out, actually, if I get hold of the, I need to save this. Let's do file save. Right, if I just show you, if we select the first model, you can also check if there are lots of different layers. Maybe the model comes out black, for instance, and if you go into, actually, I think it's the UV set editor, then you can see there's only one in the list here. Sometimes if you've got a few of them, it's because you might have carried out the steps a few times. So sometimes if it's corrupting on the model, it could be that you've got multiple sort of like different sets in here, in which case going to Windows, rendering hypershade, rendering hypershade, you can see here if you've got loads and loads of versions, and then you can sort of delete them out of here, and then hopefully you'll end up having UV sets. Sort of, you can delete some of these sets out if you've got a big long list here. Okay, anyway, back to the point at the moment. We've got the group, here you go, I've got 51998, which was the Remeshed model that I brought back in from ZBrush. This has already been UV unwrapped, but what we're going to do is we're going to transfer all of these UVs from the original model onto this new lower, sort of more optimized model. So the first thing that we need to do is we'll go back to this window. We need to select the remeshed model and make sure that it is in exactly the same place as the original. So luckily, because we did freeze transformations, we know that the first model is at 000. So it's very easy to grab the second model and make sure that that's at 0002. So brilliant. So to transfer the map across, we need to go to the rendering window and then lighting and shading, transfer maps. Okay, so we're going to, firstly, the target mesh. This is where we want to transfer the map to. So that's going to, we're going to select the remeshed, sort of like the more optimized version in the outliner panel, and then add this to, here we go, group 5199, there we go. This is the mesh that we want to add the map to. The source mesh is the original, and we're going to just add this as the source mesh. So with the output maps, there's a few different things you could do. We could just do the diffuse color map, which will literally just take, right, I've got a few of these, I don't know why I've got so many. We've got diffuse there, that's why. Remove map, remove, right, we're probably going to need that. You could have a normal map if you want to do the bump maps. So this one needs to be model normal. Save it as a JPEG. Save. But the most important one is the diffuse color, because we want to save the UV texture there. So this will be model, I'll call it base. And again, I'm going to save that as a JPEG. Save. Right, the important thing to remember, is the size. This is up to, yeah, that should be all right. Make sure this isn't too low, otherwise it won't be detailed enough. We're going to change transfer in world space because it's occupying the same space. All of that can probably be left on the default. And then we will just press bake. So a little progression bar in the bottom corner. Lovely, just close this. So if I get the group model and just move this to the side, and you can see both of those together. This one's got normal maps on it as well. So if I just change the lighting a little bit, so use flat lighting, here we go. Right, that's a really nice transfer. Let's have a look at the UV maps for that. So panel, UV editor. Right, the original model is there and the new model is there, and you can see that that makes a lot more sense. It's put all of those bits and pieces, including the face, into more recognizable sections as opposed to where they had been all over the place. So great. Okay, lovely. So we could save that. And I'm just going to delete history again. And delete by type, delete history. And now we no longer need the original model. We can get rid of this. And you can see all the UV shells where they are. They're kind of like all over the place. It's easier further back, actually. Right, there's a couple of little stray bits. I'm going to have to get rid of those in a minute. Let's just delete her. And we'll get the new model and just set her up in the center. Great. Right, I'm just going to get rid of, so right clicking on the model, go to face. That means I can just select that bit there, and yeah, that's a bit tidier. Good. Right. Okay, if this had been posed into a T pose, we could move straight onto auto rig. But actually what I need to do now is kind of straighten out her arms and get her into a T pose. So this is, it's like, I'm going to show you a few things and then hopefully just speed up so that we can skip to the end a little bit. So if I just grab her, put her on a faces setting. Right, I need to kind of make a little break here and here, and then here and here, just to get rid of the elbows. So just do a little break here and here. In fact, I'm going to straighten up these arms from the shoulders a little bit and make them a bit easier. So, oops. Grab this. Get the rotate tool, or D, because we need to rotate from here. And then just, whoops, that is not the way to do it, but it will work at least. There's some little stretching at the back, not to worry. And here, let's grab this So here, hold down the D key so that we can shift that rotation. That side actually looks like it's doing a nice job. Right, okay, we can smooth that out later. The main thing is that we can grab some pixels there and there. I'm going to put this back on object mode and do some tilting. Right, this is what I want to make sure happens, because I can always put this back to the 1 in a minute, or 0. Yeah, we can take a little crop there. So doing face, take a little crop out of there. Yeah, and do the same the other side. Okay, so I've removed the elbows. I'm just going to straighten the model back up again. That's better. So now that we've done that, we need to try and get these hands in the best position. So going back to right-clicking, going back to the faces. Kind of imaginary, giving it an imaginary elbow. Probably not bad. I'm going to create some polys in here just to link these two objects. I think the main thing that I need to watch out for is how much length I give this. Now, an arm is the same length as a leg, so you know, maybe about there. Okay, now I need to do the same to the other side. Right, I think the other thing that I might kind of do is straighten out the hair, relax those hands a little bit. Get the rotation tool, set it to rotate at the wrist. Let's just see if we can just, oh, look at that. Do the same to the other side. Okay, so we're going to need to fill in these gaps. For this, we're going to use the modeling tools, which if I go into the faces, right off the edge of the screen, here we go. The modeling toolkit, it shares the same panel as the channel box and the attribute editor. So if you go into the modeling toolkit, we're going to use a combination of target weld and bridging. And probably the easiest way to do this is for me to do a fast speed up. Basically, we can bridge the edges of these polys with the edges of these polys, and it will create a quad to sort of go in between. So if I select and do a right click, select edge here. We can grab this edge here and this one here and do a bridge, and it has done it. Okay, if for any reason it doesn't do it, it's because it's not reading this as belonging to one single mesh. So you will have to hit combine first and then try and bridge the two elements. But I'm just going to rapidly sort of connect up these four arms with the upper arm on both sides. So one thing, so you can use bridge and select like a little group of polys, so group of edges. So we've got some edges here, just holding down the shift key, and it actually tells you how many edges it's got selected. So it's got 3 edges selected. So I've got, oops, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges there. And then this is quite a long process, and I'm not a modeler. It's peculiar because what it's doing is it's kind of painting whatever's on the UV map in that missing space. But don't, yeah, just keep linking these up. There's no way that there's going to be equal number of polys on each side. So the other thing that you might need to do, and it looks like I've got more polys at the top, more poly edges at the top than I have at the bottom, is I'm going to pick somewhere that's probably not going to be so visible, like under the arm, and I'm going to just start snapping some of these together to reduce or sort of gather these in a little bit. So I'm going to go to the vertexes. Here we go, vertex, and then do a target weld, and that will enable me to drag and drop these vertices onto each other. Now, ideally, you want to have quads each time, but if there's a few triangles under there, then at least this is going to be covered up under the arm, so not so visible. Okay, so it took some doing, but here's the model with some makeshift arms. Obviously, this is not the ideal way to go about this. This is just the demonstration. You could probably take the model back into ZBrush just to get these arm areas there. Therefore, you'd be able to do some nice sculpting, bring it back, and then just grab these sections and be able to join them in a bit more seamlessly than I've done. This was, I mean, really, this should be avoided, and it's a problem of the scanning. I'm just going to show you why this was a problem. Really, a T pose would have been best. It wasn't possible because the distance between the fingertips and the outside camera was going to be a lot closer than the figure standing on the podium, which would have meant that the fingertips could have been out of focus. However, what we probably should have done was to position the model either side of the podium, had outstretched arms. It would have been much easier to go for a setup like this than have to go about rebuilding so much. Anyway, that's done now. So what we need to do now is check the UV map. So select her, go to panel, go to UV editor. And what we now need to do is we need to project these sleeves onto this layout, so that, so that we can give them some color. Really, it'd be nice to clone a bit of the pullover across, but I'm probably just going to do something quick just for speed. Okay, so I think it would be, it is ideal for a cylindrical projection. So I'm just going to rotate her around on the side. Oops. Okay, so then back into face mode. Just grab this bit here. And then do UV cylindrical. And look at that, that's much tidier. So we can just scale this down. Okay, let's move on. Come back to this, put it back on object mode, move it back to its original position. As it is, these are just going to get painted a block colour, so I'm not going to worry too much about the fact that this scale is probably going to be there. Good. Okay, so finish that. Come back to the model. Put this, set this back to 0. Okay, I'm just going to check where this original mesh was. I haven't been deleting my history. I'm just going to do that now because it'll be easier to find the Lambert. Here we go. Lambert, it's in demonstrations, base map. So here's the base map. Just going to take a snapshot of this new layout with the arms added by going into image, UV snapshot. I'm going to save that in demonstrations as snapshot, and then demonstrations with snapshot. There it is. Just drag that into Adobe Photoshop and here. And I'm just going to check the image size of this. This is 2048, whereas the base map is 1024. So we'll go to the snapshot, just rearrange that. Image size needs to be 1024. Okay. Select all, copy, and paste. Right, the reason I've done this is I've put it in its own layer just so that we know where the outline is for the sleeves. So just drag them into view. Right, so if I just grab these areas, these are the areas that need to get coloured up. And then going back into that background layer, just for ease, I'm just going to take a sample from that sweatshirt and just colour them in that. So fill, foreground colour. Great, deselect that. Now we can get rid of that extra layer. I'm going to save this as base map 1, and it's going into demonstrations. Good. So now going back into Maya, we close this where it's got, we've still got this selected, but just to make sure, you need to delete the history by type, because then it's going to be easy to find the Lambert, which is the UV map. So just click on there. We've got base map JPEG. We're going to have base map 1, which is this one, and then it should automatically update, and it has. So not perfect, but not a, yeah, luckily she's got the right clothes on to get away with this. Okay, so this can now get saved and delete history, ready for rigging, and then applying the mocap. Right, a further point regarding the modelling, if I just sort of zoom in on this sleeve a little bit, you can see where the two elements of the sleeve had been bridged with each other. They've created one long poly. Now, for the purposes of the skinning, because this is going to be part of the skin attached to the rig, this does need breaking up a bit. So if you go to the Mesh Tools menu, you can select Insert Edge Loop, and then that will allow you to just run some, break this up, run some edge loops down the arm of the sleeve just to help break it up a little bit more. So just put that back to object mode. Whoops. Object mode, select it, and you can see that that's now broken up the sleeve, which needs to be done to both sides. The version of the model that I used for the rigging obviously had this, so that the model could move and bend the, bend the elbow as the rig moved. Right, we're going to select the model. In the drop-down menu, rather than going for modeling, we're going for rigging, and then you should be able to get skeleton, and there's Quickrig. So firstly, we're going to do a step-by-step. We're also going to add the mesh that we've got selected here. So if you just click on the little add there, it's actually stuck that group in there. So the next thing to do, hopefully this is going to work with this T pose. It might sense that everything's dislocated and broken, but we'll just have a go. Okay, so we're going to create some guides. There they are. They're actually looking not bad. Just going to, yeah, they're inside the body. So I'm not going to do anything to that because that looks not bad. Right, so with the guides looking okay, we can, if they didn't look okay, you can select them and maybe move them around. But as it is, I don't know, maybe the elbows, let's have a check. Yeah, maybe the elbows need to move. I mean, these are completely made up arms, but so that's elbow. Shoulders look good though, and the knees are in the right place. So great. Okay, so you could edit that. Otherwise, we're going to generate the skeleton, which is as well looking good. And we just check in here. We've got this Quickrig little box that also crops up, and what you can do is if this isn't working, you can click on each of these joints and then do a right click, and you would have to assign selected bone. But as it is, this has done a really good job with the whole thing, so that's okay. And the next thing that we're going to do is do the skinning now. So create update for the skinning, and then that will complete. And at the bottom of the screen, that's building. It's done already. Great. So this rig, it's worth noting, is called Quickrig Character. I might just give it a name, rename model, same as everything's being model. Okay, and there's model. And then in here, I'm going to just click on the save. And then this is going into my Maya folder. Okay, you can go to Mixamo and maybe download some animation. I already downloaded a Flappy Dance piece of animation from Mixamo, so I'm just going to import that now. It'll be an FBX. It's probably going to be huge. Yeah, there it is, really huge. Right, the main thing to do now that we've got this Mixamo rig in here is actually sort of make sure that Maya picks it up and recognises that it exists. In skeleton, I'm going to go back to Quickrig again and got them both selected. Right, with the Mixamo rig selected, right, I'm just going to add it. Yeah, great. Okay, this is the Quickrig. So now what we need to do is select each limb. So grab this arm, bring it down, grab that arm and do a right click, assign bone, grab the next arm, assign bone, the head, I've got a vertebrae, got the pelvis, and got thigh bone, shin, and finally we have a foot. I'm going to save this. Okay, so now we have got both of these saved. I don't actually need the Mixamo mesh, so get rid of that mesh. We just need the rig, and you can see if you press play, you can see that rig is actually playing, doing some flapping dance. Right, I'm going to put this on 30 frames a second, which is there. What's this? Warning. What's this? This is for, right. Yeah, it's probably because it's got hands. I'm not sure why. Right, okay. Moment of madness. Right, so we've got a Quickrig and we've got a model rig as well. So I'm just going to select the model rig now. And as its source, I'm going to add the Quickrig, which was that Mixamo one, which now means that from the top, this little character is going to dance. So let's just zoom in so you can see. Now, this will be interesting. So from the top. Yay! The arms are a little bit peculiar. Actually, it was quite appropriate animation for this. So great. Okay, so that's worked. Kind of. Sort of dislocated, broken arms as well as dislocated shoulder, but you get the idea anyway. Okay, good luck with that. Oh, and yes, and when you come to export this as a FBX, you will want to make sure that you grab the hips and then select the hierarchy, which is here. And we'll select the Mixamo hips, and we'll select the select everything, and then go to File, Export Selected, and we can save that as model dance, and it is, we want to save it as an FBX here. Right, export selection, and that will take a little while. Open a new scene and import that FBX. So what was that? That was model dance. Model dance FBX. It doesn't like something. But it's all there. And it's dancing. Yay.